The letter came on a Tuesday. Thick envelope. Official seal. From the bank. Inside. A balance notice for $560,000. Mortgage delinquent. Foreclosure threatened. Only one problem. I never bought a house. I sat in my kitchen, hands shaking, reading the fine print. My name. My SSN. My signature. Forged. For 2 hours, I thought I was losing my mind. Then I called the number at the bottom of the letter. A kind voice answered. Ma'am, we confirmed your identity on the purchase back in July. The deed lists you as the primary owner. I asked for the address. It was 3 hours away. A luxury property with a pool, marble counters, and a 4-car garage. And I knew exactly who had done it. My sister had always been reckless. Always borrowing things that weren't hers. My clothes. My car. My credit card. Once, to book a vacation for a boyfriend, she dumped mid-flight. But this was a different level. This was fraud. This was federal. I filed the police report the same day. The officer looked at me and asked, "Do you want to press charges?" My chest burned, not with hate, but with the weight of betrayal so deep. You feel it in your lungs when you breathe. I said yes. Quietly. Finally. Yes. And then I waited. I didn't scream. Didn't send her a warning. Didn't even hint. I waited until Sunday. Family dinner. Everyone at the table. My sister glowing in her designer dress, bragging about her real estate luck. Mom clapped. Dad laughed. She winked at me like nothing had happened. I didn't smile. I reached into my purse, pulled out the envelope, and slid it across the table. Funny, I said. You bought your dream house. With my nightmare. She opened it. Saw the police stamp. The charges. The mugshot still pending. Her face strained. Fork clattered. Silence. You wouldn't, she whispered. I leaned back, calm as ever. You already did. I'm just returning the favor. She stood up so fast the chair screeched. Eyes wide, voice shaking. You're going to ruin my life. I didn't blink. No. You did that the moment you signed my name and put a mansion on my credit score. Mom reached for the papers like she could smooth them out, as if this was some spilled wine. Instead of first-degree identity theft. Let's talk about this privately, she whispered. We're family. I laughed. Low and sharp. Family doesn't take out a $560,000 loan, while their sister is paying off student debt and driving a 12-year-old car. My father, silent all dinner, finally spoke. You don't need to involve the police. I turned to him. You knew. He looked away. That silence hit harder than anything. They knew. They let her. They let me carry their golden girl's recklessness again. I packed up my folder, tucked the papers neatly back into my bag, and looked around the table. You all thought I was too quiet, too focused, too boring to notice. You forgot I'm the one who checks the numbers. My sister reached out like that could fix it. I'll pay it back. I promise. I shook my head. With what? Your fake real estate job? The influencer career you built on lies. The room felt frozen. The air thick with a decade of lies I had finally aired. I wanted to believe, I said quietly, that this family would protect me. Turns out I was just the signature they needed, when no one else trusted them. As I left, my sister collapsed into her chair, crying for the cameras that weren't there. But I didn't stop, didn't turn, didn't look back. That night, the detective called. We served her. She's facing felony fraud, and the DA's fast-tracking the case. She's not walking away from this one. I didn't smile, didn't gloat, because some victories don't feel good. They feel necessary, heavy, final. And this was just the beginning of her reckoning. The mugshot leaked by Thursday. She looked hollow. No filters. No lashes. Just a face stripped of entitlement, staring down a reality she never thought would catch up. It spread fast. Shared in local groups, sent around real estate circles, retweeted with words like fraud, con artist, using her sister's name. Her agency dropped her within hours. The sponsorships vanished. My inbox filled with messages, some from mutuals, others from strangers. She used to act so above everyone. We always wondered how she afforded that place. She deserves every second of it. But the one that stuck came from an old teacher of ours. You were always the quiet one. She was the loud star. But look who was building something real all along. And now, the real one, me, was cleaning up the wreckage of a house I never bought, never visited, and never wanted, because the bank wasn't just walking away. They didn't care about family drama. They cared about money. And that mortgage? Still legally tied to me. So I met with a lawyer. Sharp suit, sharper mind. He glanced over the police report and said, "We'll file for damages, civil fraud, and we'll subpoena every cent she spent in your name." Good. Because I had receipts. Literal ones. The marble counters. The down payment. The $12,000 fridge that sparkled in her Instagram reels. All of it mine. Without my permission. That weekend, she called me from a block number. Crying. Begging. They're going to take the house. Mom won't help. Please, just tell them I had your consent. I stayed quiet for a moment, then asked one question. When you signed my name, were you thinking about me? She stuttered, paused, said nothing. I hung up because I didn't know her comfort, just because her consequences finally arrived. She chose this. And me? I chose freedom. The eviction notice went up on her front door the following week. Neighbors whispered. One even filmed it. Her yelling at the officers, screaming that it was all a misunderstanding. But the bank wasn't moved. They had evidence, a signed police report, and my name, notarized without me. She was given 72 hours to vacate. She used 71 to throw tantrums, and the last hour to disappear. Mom called the night before. Her voice was low, tired. She's scared, sweetheart. Can't you find it in your heart to forgive her? I closed my laptop. You're asking the wrong daughter for grace. She sighed. You don't know what it's like to lose everything. And there it was again. The expectation that I'd sacrifice myself just to keep their illusion alive. No, Mom, I said. I know exactly what it's like. Because I've spent 10 years losing pieces of myself just to keep you comfortable. Silence. Then, we didn't raise you to be so cold. I smiled bitterly. No. You raised me to be convenient. Click. The next morning, I drove past the house. Not out of pity, not out of revenge, but closure. The porch was littered with boxes, fake designer bags, framed prints of fake affirmations, a shattered mirror, and in the center of it all, her. No makeup, no filtered angles. Just a woman who built her castle on someone else's name and watched it sink into the mud. She saw my car, ran toward it, tears streaming, mascara smudged from what little she'd tried to hold together. Please just tell them I didn't mean it. I rolled the window down just enough. You meant it every time you signed my name, every time you smiled for the camera, knowing it was built on my identity. She cried harder, but I didn't flinch, didn't soften. I don't need you to go to jail, I said. I just need you to finally live without me. Then I rolled the window up and drove off. For the first time in years, my hands didn't shake, my chest didn't ache, and my voice, it was mine again. By Monday, the calls started. Not from her, from them. Aunt Marie, Uncle Dennis, even Grandma, who once called me the quiet failure. She's your sister. Blood is thicker. She's learned her lesson. Do you really want her to go to jail? They didn't ask what she had done. They asked why I wasn't covering it up better. As if I was the stain. Not the forged documents. Not the six-figure fraud. Not the decade of silence while she burned bridges with my name on them. I said the same thing to each of them. I didn't ruin her life. I just refused to keep funding it. And the truth is, they weren't upset about the crime. They were upset someone finally pulled the curtain back. The golden daughter. The charming sister. The one they all liked better. She wasn't golden. She was glitter on rot. That week, my face showed up in a blog. One of her influencer friends wrote a pity post. When family betrays family, how jealousy ruins lives. They used my LinkedIn photo. No name, just enough breadcrumbs to make me the villain. The comments section burned, until someone from college dropped a truth bomb. Actually, her sister stole her identity to buy a mansion. Bank statements and police reports say otherwise. Silence. Then deletion. It was almost funny. How fast people flipped once the lie didn't benefit them anymore. Meanwhile, the court date approached. My lawyer called. They're trying to offer a plea. Restitution, probation. I leaned back in my chair, staring out at the skyline I built. Every brick paid for in full. Every late night I never shared. Every dream I never asked anyone to believe in. Good, I said. I never wanted her behind bars. I just wanted her out of my life. I wasn't chasing pain. I was chasing peace. And peace means letting go. Not out of mercy, but because some people don't deserve permanent space in your story. And I was done writing her in. The courtroom was cold. Not just the AC, but the mood. The silence before something unfixable is spoken out loud. She walked in wearing beige. Hair tied back. No mascara. No fake designer labels. Just stripped down desperation. And the sudden realization that charm doesn't work on courtrooms. The judge read the charges. Felony identity theft. Mortgage fraud. Forgery. My name echoed off the walls like a wound reopened. When they asked how she pled, she looked at me like I was supposed to save her. Again. Guilty, but I didn't mean to hurt anyone. I almost laughed, but I didn't. The prosecutor handed over the paper trail. Emails. Applications. Digital signatures. Surveillance footage of her signing documents. Under my name. She started to cry. Real tears. Or rehearsed, who knows. The judge paused. Asked if I wanted to speak. Victim impact. I stood. Not for revenge, but for record. This wasn't an accident. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a decision made over and over. To use me without asking. To silence me with guilt. And to build a life on the bones of my credit. Her lawyer tried to object. The judge waved him off. I kept going. She didn't just steal my name. She stole years of trust. And when I confronted her, she begged for mercy. Not because she was sorry, but because she got caught. She's not the victim. She's the architect of her own collapse. The judge nodded. Sentencing postponed. But the damage was done. And this time, it wasn't mine. As I walked out, reporters waited. But I didn't stop. Didn't give them the drama. Because the truth? This wasn't a scandal. It was a severing. And I was finally free of the rope she'd used. To pull herself up, while dragging me down. 2 weeks passed. No calls. No texts. Just silence. The kind they used to weaponize. Now turned back on them. But silence was different now. It didn't hurt. It healed. I walked through my apartment barefoot. The sun was pouring in. Peace felt like warm hardwood under my toes. And coffee that didn't come with a crisis. Then the letter arrived. Handwritten. From my mother. Inside was a folded photo. Me and my sister at 10 years old. Matching dresses. 4 smiles. And beneath it a note. I raised 2 daughters. One just made more mistakes. Please come to the family dinner this Sunday. Let's talk like we used to. Like we used to? When I was funding everything behind the scenes. While being called selfish in public. When helping meant shutting up and opening my wallet. I placed the photo on the table. Stared at it for a long minute. Then dropped it in the shredder. Because I wasn't that girl anymore. Not the quiet one. Not the fixer. Not the disposable daughter. Later that day, a cousin called. They're planning some big apology. Dinner, speeches, even a gift. A gift, I said. They already gave me the best one. Distance. He laughed nervously. You're really not coming, huh? No, I said. They don't want to apologize. They want to reset without accountability. Well, what should I tell them? Tell them I'm thriving. And that they don't get access to it. That Sunday, while they poured wine and rehearsed hollow apologies, in a house I once helped keep from foreclosure, I was watching a play, surrounded by strangers who laughed without envy and cried without shame. People who didn't need me to shrink, just to fit their spotlight. That night, I slept with the windows open. No buzzing guilt, no shame storms, just wind and breath, and a peace that sounded like finally choosing myself. It happened on a Tuesday. Ordinary sky. Nothing dramatic. Just the moment I finally realized they would never change. Not because they couldn't, because they didn't want to. A final email came in from my sister's lawyer. She's agreed to pay restitution if you sign a forgiveness statement. Forgiveness? As if a signature could erase the nights I couldn't sleep, the days I checked my credit score like a pulse, the job offers I lost while buried under her debt. I closed the email, didn't even reply. Instead, I opened a different document, the title deed to my new home, paid in full, in my name, signed with a hand that no longer trembled. That night, I hosted a small dinner. For people, all chosen. No blood, no ghosts. We toasted over candlelight, laughed without whispers. And when someone asked, "Do they ever try to reach out anymore?" I said, "Probably," but I stopped checking. They nodded, because healing doesn't need an audience. It needs space. After dinner, I walked outside. No headlines, no courtroom, just the stars, quiet witnesses. To a woman who finally stopped bleeding for people who called it love. I looked up and whispered, "I survived you, and then I outgrew you." There was no applause, just the sound of a door inside me, locking for good. And that's the thing they never understood. I didn't want revenge. I wanted peace. And now, I have it. I am not her ATM, not her scapegoat, not their silent provider. I am Elena Carter, and I walk tall, with my own name, my own home, and no one left to apologize to.